Good evening. I'd like to call the Anacortes City Council meeting for September 21st, 2020 to order. Ms. Hunt, would you take the roll?
Mr. Carter.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Here.
Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item 2, announcements and committee reports. And the first item is 2A, and I have a proclamation that I've been reading annually now for 2 or 3 years. And let me read it now. It is whereas 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer by their 20th birthday, or 15,780 children annually will get diagnosed. And whereas there is approximately 40,000 children on the active treatment at any given time, and nearly 2,000 American children under the age of 19 still die each year from cancer. And whereas all the surviving patients, 2/3 will have chronic health conditions as a result of their treatment toxicity, including conditions later in life, such as ailments related to their heart, liver, lung, infertility, secondary cancers, and growth deficits. Whereas cancer is the leading killer of children by disease, and causes of childhood cancer are largely unknown. More studies are needed to understand which treatments work best for our children. Whereas researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently, dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer. And although the 5-year survival rate for children cancer has reached 80%, the City of Anacortes recognizes there is unique research needs of childhood cancer. And whereas hundreds of nonprofit organizations at the local and the national level, including the American Childhood Cancer Organization, are helping children with cancer and their families cope through education, emotional, and financial support. Whereas the city of Anacortes is a caring community that supports children and their families, and too many children are affected by this deadly disease. And more must be done to raise awareness and find a cure. Now, therefore, be resolved that Mayor Lori Geer of the City of Anacortes declares the month of September 2020 to be Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Anacortes. And I encourage all citizens to support the cause, which impacts our children and their families and our community and communities across this country. Signed this 21st day of September 2020. Thank you. The next item is item 2B. It's my weekly COVID report. I'll start with giving you some statistics. Here in the City of Anacortes at Island Hospital to date, we've tested 5,371 people. We've had a total of 57 positive cases in the City of Anacortes, and we've had 10 people hospitalized, and we've had 0 deaths in our community. As of today in Skagit County, we've had 1,079 positive cases. We've hospitalized 97 people. We've had 22 deaths, and to date, 864 people have recovered. In Washington State, the Department of Health confirms that we've had 82,848 confirmed cases and 2,055 deaths. Our county must have fewer than 25 cases per 100,000 residents over 14 days. We're currently at 38.7 new cases. That's incredible news. That's down from 80 last week. And remember, before 4th of July, we were at 25, under 25 per 100. So we're definitely making progress of flattening the curve. The county must have greater than 50 individuals tested per each new case during the prior week, and we're awaiting updates from the state on that statistic. Number 3 is the percentage of individuals testing positive must be less than 2%, and we're currently at 1.1%. Number 4, the percentage of beds occupied in the county must be less than 80%, and these are hospital beds we're talking about, and we're currently at 78.1%. And number 5, lastly, the percentage of those beds occupied by COVID-19 cases must be less than 10%, and we're currently at 0.9%. So right today, we're meeting 3 of the 5 metrics, and once the governor unpauses, if we can get the 5 metrics in order, we hopefully can move into phase 3. In the United States, we currently stand at 6.85 million cases with over 200,000 deaths. Globally, we've had 31 million cases with close to 1 million deaths, 962,000 deaths to date. In the county, local news related to our health, Dr. Lybrand has asked each community, and he met with the mayors last week, that none of us promote any kind of Halloween door-to-door or any city-sponsored or chamber-sponsored Halloween events. We believe that would be a COVID, it'd be a good way to spread COVID in our community. We've also, and months ago, the Oyster Run Committee canceled the Oyster Run, so that's still in place. That event has been canceled. The county, as of today, reports that both the air quality and the fire safety burn bans were lifted, and recreational fires are now allowed in unincorporated Skagit County. And just a reminder that this week the testing site is open Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 8:30 to 4 p.m. and Tuesdays to Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if someone works during the day, they can get over in the evening to get tested if they feel if that is what they need to do. And that is my report on COVID-19 this week. Any questions on that? All right, I will move on then to our Public Works Committee report.
Mayor Gear?
Moulton.
Thank you. The Public Works Committee met just prior to this meeting with Mr. Young and Mr. Walters in attendance, with Mr. Buckenmeyer, Ms. Tesh, and Mr. Scharbeck from Public Works staff. And we first talked about tonight's agenda item number 4. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's on tonight's agenda, and it's a contract with the City of Oak Harbor about providing fiber to them through water lines that go across Deception Pass. So we'll be discussing that at tonight's meeting. We also touched on the Whistle Lake Dam assessment that's taking place, that's required by the Department of Ecology, and Public Works staff is moving forward with that. It's about an earthen dam at the end of the lake that needs to be assessed. We talked about the outfall construction management plan, which is ongoing, and the construction for that is estimated to begin in fall of 2021. So that's moving along. We had good news about the senior center. The roof is done. We saw a photo from above. It looks great. While the work was being done, there was some rot found in the kitchen and in a couple of other places, most of which has been fixed and some of which is still being fixed. So that's coming along, and we thank the generous donor who provided funds for that roof replacement. It was a complicated job and it looks great. We learned a little bit more about the Crayley leak detection system and security system that we spoke about last week at council. We saw some slides about it and learned a little bit more about permanent detection systems versus temporary leak detection. So whether we would install something at the plant and in the lines, or if we would have it done periodically through temporary options where they would come with a van and a crew and detect the leaks or look for leaks, hopefully not detect any, but that would be just leaks, not security. So anyway, the exploration of those ideas are ongoing, and those will be coming back to council eventually to see what we decide we would like to do. And we discussed the construction of the new raw water line that will go underneath the river. This is a second water line that will provide redundancy, so we'll have two instead of just one. And tomorrow, they're going to start drilling the pilot hole, which is a horizontal hole that's going to go underneath the Skagit River, and it's going to be 2,000 feet long, and it will eventually accommodate a 42-inch diameter pipe, and that will be our new raw water line. So pretty cool project that's moving right along. We will see a proposal come forward in the not too distant future about the property that the city has purchased at the water treatment plant, and we will discuss the possibility of leasing that property as farmland. So the city will receive some income from that and have a farmer there, which would be great. And lastly, some paving projects are in the works. I think they're going out to bid. The paving sections will be K Avenue from 12th Street to 20th Street, 20th Street from K to I Avenue, and then the Hartford Oaks intersection. So we'll be seeing those soon. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, is there anything else we need to talk about this evening?
Mayor Gear?
Young.
I wanted to bring up an issue for council and the city to really consider. And it is that I know, although we've canceled the oyster run, what we've seen happening across the country is that people, in their effort to just get out and get away, that we may actually end up having some of the oyster run participants come to our city anyway. And so the question, I think, is before the city is, what do we do? I mean, from the standpoint that if, as happened in other cities, there's this large group of people coming to have a good time as we normally do, but this time we have COVID. We have the issues of whether masked or unmasked. We have the issues of not wanting to make sure that we have wanting to make sure we are socially distanced. But the question becomes, what do we do? Because in other cities, people have shown up. And I think that as a city, our part of our due diligence is preparing just for that. And I wanted council and, the team to talk about it, because the date is coming up, and I've received a number of emails and calls concerning the probability of large numbers of bikers coming. And they expressed worry that this could potentially become an issue for COVID, and in some ways derail our efforts at trying to get full opening for our city. So I think that if that may happen, which, I've got indications that it may, how will we prepare? And I think we need to discuss it.
So, Anthony, thank you for bringing that up. It's really important. And let me brief the council on what we've done to date, and perhaps you all can come up with additional ideas. This came up about a month ago from many of the downtown or the restaurants up on Commercial from 37th to 2nd Street concerned. We took it up at the chamber. The chamber has weekly meetings, and we discussed, that it had been officially canceled by the Oyster Run group. So we know that many of the regular Oyster Run that are affiliated with the Oyster Run group will not be attending because the event's canceled. We've also spent a lot of time at the chamber meetings talking about this, and many of the restaurants that are normally open on Sunday are going to choose to close because they don't want to get caught in a COVID situation. Not all. We haven't mandated that or anything, but I've heard of several volunteers that we're closing our doors. Some are even closing on Saturday. So that's in progress. The Anacortes, the police department has talked to their partners across the county, talked about, if we had a lot of traffic in one city or the other and how we'd support each other. We know Chief Small has scheduled more of his officers to work Sunday. They will be on call. I have also told Chief I would be available and be in the commercial sector Sunday during the day for any kind of whatever might come up. And finally, let's see, we've done that. Oyster Run. And then this morning I talked to Mr. Meismer regarding he has a sign, he in Public Works, I'm not sure whose sign it is. It's out on the highway and it talks about mask up. And we thought on Friday through Sunday, we would put Oyster Run is canceled. And that'll be on the highway right before they get to the roundabout. So hopefully they'll hit the roundabout and leave. But to warn them, there is nothing going on here, folks. So that's what we've done to date. I'm open for all good ideas because I fear what you fear, Anthony, that we need to be prepared and we need to not undo the good we've done with COVID, keeping those cases low. And we'll welcome them back next year. So
I just wanted to say one more point on that and leave it open to council to discuss their thoughts. But, truly, Oyster Run has been just such a good thing for us. It really has. And it's sad, all of the stuff we're having to do as a result of COVID. And the reason I've chosen to bring this up is that truly it's part of the due diligence we do as stakeholders, but also leadership in the city, that if we want to open, if we eventually want to get beyond this, there are things we really have to do. And so I just wanted to bring that to council, whether, mask enforcement is something we want to do. I know we reluctantly talk about it, and I know why, and I agree. But, as leaders, what do we do? So it's open to you guys.
any other comments? Okay, so I don't hear anything. I think not, Anthony, I will bring that back to Chief Small, and we could probably, we'll have the mask discussion, because you're right, if they do show up, we need them to mask up like that we do, and we could remind folks of that. And then if you all have any suggestions during the week, please contact me or Chief Small, because we will be ready for any potential biker that might show up. We want to, give them our friendly Anacortes, but there isn't going to be much for them to do this Sunday.
Hey, Mayor Gear.
Yes. Thanks, Christine.
So just kind of rolling around in my head and going off of Councilmember Young's comments, the one thing that is a little bit different that we may have not thought through quite yet is the fact that we have these beautiful new parklets that have been put out this last weekend, which I think are incredible. But I don't know if that could become an issue for gathering. If everything's closed or most businesses are closed, does that then become a spot for people to hang out if there's chairs and tables there? So I don't know, maybe our planning committee can kind of talk about that if we ask businesses that are going to be closed to maybe put their chairs away for that day.
Yeah, I think the majority do, but that would be a really good idea, because you're right. They're right all this way. They come into town, there's something to do. Wow, there's a place, yeah.
We can all hang out and at least talk to each other for half an hour, 45 minutes, so. Yeah, so that'd be nice.
I'll ask Dawn to reach out to the parklet folks, and most of us put our chairs away just because we don't want to lose them. So we do that on a regular basis, so. Okay, great thought, Anthony, thank you. I appreciate that. With Chief Small and I have spent many an hour thinking about this weekend and planning for it. All right.
You there?
Yes, Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on Ms. Cleveland McGrath's statement and say I agree that's a really good idea. And also to thank the 12 or 13 city staff members who volunteered on their Saturday morning and busted it out, just killed it, getting 14 parklets up in downtown. And they look fantastic, and they were immediately used by people, and it just brings such a convivial atmosphere to downtown. And I also think that just want to say that the new parklets look better than our old initial parklets. So great job to planning department, staff, public works, and everybody that helped out. Thank you. I think it's going to be a great benefit to our downtown businesses and our citizens and visitors. Thanks.
And if I can piggyback onto that, the cool thing is those volunteers were from the police department, the museum, the wastewater treatment, the road crew, planning, public works. It was across the board. It was really fun to see these folks out working. And then the second part, I forgot my train of thought on that other part. Oh, we have the resources to help people get tents and heaters because we know fall weather's coming. And I really think, many communities that have more brisk weather than we do globally have figured out how to be outside in the winter and enjoy being outside. So I think we're really going to create an outdoor atmosphere this winter where, you might want to sit for hours, but maybe a half hour with your friends near a propane heater on one of our parklets. So we're really going to work hard to help those businesses make these work through the winter because COVID's here for a while. So thank you. All right, anything else? So we'll move on now to item 3, it's public comment. And Matt, do we have anyone visiting us this evening? I'm looking, participants, do we have any guests?
I apologize. I unmuted my phone, but I did not unmute my Zoom. We do have one guest with their hand raised.
Okay, can that person come forward then? I can't tell who it is, but, hello? You can state your name and talk to the council. Matt, can you help out?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can. You just tell us your name.
Hey. This is Andrea Dahl.
Welcome, Andrea.
Hi. I'm calling tonight speaking for the Skagit County League of Women Voters.
Okay.
And I want to remind everyone that tomorrow is the National Voter Registration Day.
Okay. Thank you.
So, obviously very important. We want everyone to get out and vote. And also I was told to tell people that if they have questions around their eligibility to vote, the registration, they can go to a website, and it's just votewa.gov, votewa.gov, and then they can verify their own registration and do whatever they need to do to make sure that they're ready to go in November.
Wonderful.
So that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Andrea. It's nice to hear your voice, and thanks for reminding the citizens about registering to vote tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
All right. Does anyone else have their hand up, Matt? No? No more hands up?
No, I didn't believe so.
Okay. All right. We'll move on then to item 4, which is our consent agenda. There are 4 action items there this evening. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor Gear,
Mr. Walters.
I don't believe items C or D qualify for the consent agenda, so I'd like to pull them.
Okay, we'll pull those off. All right, would anyone like to talk to me about items A?
Mayor Gear,
Mr. Miller.
I move to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Second.
Well, we have a motion by Mr. Miller, a second by Mr. Carter. All in favor of approving items 4A and B, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Walters, item 4C.
Especially item 4C, I was hoping that Captain Small could give us an overview.
Okay. Captain, Chief Small, are you here?
I am here.
Excuse me, Chief Small.
So the SMART team amendment this time around is the addition of a community representative to the SMART team for the officer-involved shooting independent investigative team. This came out of the legislature from last year. It was mandated by our lawmakers. We had a process here a while back. We went out and recruited some people locally for our membership countywide. So for our particular case for Anacortes, Eric Johnson is our current member right now, though. And one of the things that came out of this last year, too, is that person we chose had to have ties to the community that's affected by police use of force incidents, though. So Mr. Johnson, we felt, was connected to our homeless population, our social service population in our town, though, too. He's a professional in his background. His time as a city council member, I think, was very important to that decision, though, too. So the only big change this time around is the addition of this particular member to the team. And he was vetted through the SMART team leadership group. He had to do an application process, do an interview, the whole bit, and he was selected as a member here recently. And there's training to come for him, though, too, coming up this next year, though.
Mayor.
Mr. Walters.
So who appoints people to that group?
The SMART team command staff, which is the chiefs, the sheriff, and the SMART team commanders themselves.
And the executive board under the interlocal has, their meetings are subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. When are those meetings?
That is determined by those folks, actually. We don't, there's not really a planned executive meeting for SMART at all, though. They come up as needed.
If someone wanted to attend, how would they know when they occur?
That's a great question. I'll be happy to ask that of the SMART command staff and get back to you, Mr. Walters.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Mayor Gear?
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, my only question was what the change was, and thank you for answering that question. It was to add the community representative, and I assume there are multiple community representatives.
Each town selected one member, and the island counties got to select 2 members each.
Okay.
There's actually a cadre of these folks out there.
Yeah, and then just for the public's edification, the executive board consists of the chiefs of police of all the cities as well as the Skagit County Sheriff, correct?
Correct.
And I'm missing, I think that's the executive board. And
Correct.
I'm guessing they don't have regular meetings unless there's a reason to have one.
Correct, yes, yeah.
Okay. So,
Sorry, Mr. Miller, go right ahead.
no, that's it. That's it.
Don, go ahead.
I think this is just a great idea. I really do. And I like the idea that given all of the discussions we're having across the country about policing and communities and just that openness, I think this is a great move. So I look forward to it. And any way I can help, I'd love that. And Chief, I'm always supportive of you and what you do. If in your updates, if there are meetings, if it is public, I would love to hear about how it goes and when it does. I just want to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate that, too. Thank you.
Mayor Gear?
Cleland McGrath.
Carolyn, you go first. It's okay.
No, go ahead, Christine. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Garrett. So, reading through the background, I kind of went through the documents, but there was one point that I would like clarification on, and it is under the background, that last sentence, and it says the entities now wish to replace previous interlocal to include non-law enforcement community representatives, SMART team member reviews, family liaison, and tribal liaison, if relevant. Can you just explain the family liaison and the tribal liaison?
Sure. So if the person involved in an officer-involved shooting happens to be a tribal member, that liaison will be assigned from that particular tribe, it sounds like, though, to do that population, though.
Okay.
The second part of that was, remind me again?
The family liaison?
Same thing. If the family requests someone to be tied to them, that resource will be available to them, though, too. So.
Okay. Thank you so much. And as someone who serves on our safety committee, hopefully then maybe you guys can give us a heads up when those meetings are happening or
Sure.
a summary of it, and we can then share it with council if and when those happen. So
this is a team, and it's the team we hope we never have to use, folks, and in reality. So, but we're hopefully prepared if we do. So.
Well, and it's always nice to hear about the kind of training that's occurring for the committee members or the group involved. So thank you.
Great discussion. Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. Just a little more background for our watchers at home. These changes are related to RCW 10.114.011 about independent investigation of the use of deadly force by a police officer that results in death, substantial bodily harm, or great bodily harm. It says an independent investigation must be completed to inform any determination of whether the use of deadly force met the good faith standard established in another RCW. So I just want to draw people's attention to our state laws that require this kind of oversight, which I think is these independent investigations. And there's also an initiative, I-940, that was filed with the legislature in May 2017 that also requires a lot of the procedures that citizens are so concerned about around the country and also here, about requiring de-escalation and mental health training for law enforcement, first aid training, replacing the requirement that malice must be proven in order to bring criminal charges to a law enforcement officer. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if anyone has questions, they can get in touch with me, any citizens, and learn about all these safeguards of our community members in the event that they are harmed by police officers. So there's quite a bit there. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. Thanks.
Okay, any other discussion on that? So then, yes, Mr. Walters.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that while those things Ms. Moulton talked about are driven by the legislation, I imagine that where we would have used these procedures in the last 10 years have all been in response to some really bad events that have occurred in Skagit County. The Zamora case, the Cascade Mall case, the Mount Vernon police officer shooting, where a Mount Vernon police officer was shot, and all of these things are really substantial events for Skagit County. So the events that are occurring elsewhere that have been have been the focus of so much discussion in the last many months are surely important things that we should talk about here as well. But also we have all of these other events that we know have occurred that we really need to protect ourselves against as well. So I don't think our focus is misplaced here in Anacortes. I recognize as well, though, that this is a multi-agency agreement, so I think that we should simply approve it as presented. However, in future editions, it might be useful to add some more transparency features, like a website for this entity that is created with an Open Public Meetings Act and Public Records Act obligation, so that people can find it, so that people know how it works, so that people can attend the meetings if they want. Because if they are subject to the Open Public Meetings Act, I think our obligations there should go beyond simple direct adherence to the letter of the law, and also embrace the spirit and have at least a web page that is indexed by Google that someone can find and someone can attend the meetings. So I think in future incremental adjustments to this agreement, it'd be great if someone could carry forward that message to the whole group.
Mayor, can I say one more thing on this subject? Truly, it's been a challenging time for all of us. I mean, the country, as well as, here locally, we're having big discussions about life. Where do we go? How do we get here as a community? And, and this initiative, I think, is so important. Although we have been so lucky here in our town to have the leadership we do, the police that we do, the accolades that we have here. But there are instances that's happening around the country. We're not talking good policing. We're saying when there are questions that this allows families in the community to be able to have a methodology for getting to the bottom and being able to redress questions that still may be outlined. And so, you know, in some ways, I wish we didn't need it, but I'm glad we have it. And I'm proud of, you know, again, the police force we have here. And, but, you know, again, everyone is not so lucky around the country. So with that said, thank you. And if it's okay, I move that we approve this as is.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Mr. Walters to approve item 4C, an interlocal agreement 2020 of the Skagit County Multiple Agency Response Team, more commonly known as SMART, agreement number 20-198-APD-001. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, our final item on this agenda is, in the consent agenda, is item 4D, the interlocal for the 2020 library materials. What was your question, Mr. Walters, on that?
No question. This is similar to what we've approved before. I just don't recognize it as qualifying under our procedures for the consent agenda.
All right.
I move that we approve the agreement as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Walters, second by Mr. Millers, to approve the 2020 library materials number 20-199-LIB-001. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
Here.
Yes, Mr. Walters.
If staff could identify some additional categories of items that are routine, that should go into our council procedures. I mean, maybe this one arguably qualifies, but maybe we could amend the council procedures to ensure that they're on there.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll talk to them. Thank you. Item 5A, this is open for public comment. This is Resolution 3000, extending the duration of the resolution of 2082, providing temporary procedures to respond to the COVID-19 epidemic. Discussion with possible action. Mr. Hoagland, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the audience. So the item tonight, Resolution 3000, this is in response to COVID-19, the city's response to COVID-19. Going back to March 16th, the original resolution, number 2082, was adopted by council, identifying the city's response and temporary procedures to COVID-19. That was extended on April 27th through July 31st. Again, on July 27th, that was extended through September 30th. So we're coming up upon that expiration date. And we talked about this at the Finance Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and agreed that it was reasonable to consider extending these procedures again through the end of the year. So that's what this resolution does, extends those COVID-19 responses through the end of the current fiscal year, December 31st, 2020. And of course, it can be rescinded by council action prior to that if things turn the corner before the end of the year. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have or entertain a motion.
Mayor Garrett?
Walters.
Makes sense to me. I think that we thought about doing these quarterly. So I would note that this agenda item was submitted through our Laserfish system, it looks like. And it sure makes it easy to be able to click on the hyperlinks and go to various previous resolutions, because we're now extending this for the 8th time or whatever. And so we can figure out what we had done before. Those links don't always work, though, because some bug in the web link system, so maybe we could get that looked at. Otherwise, I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. McDougall to approve Resolution 3000. Is there any discussion? Ms. Hunt, would you take the vote?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath,
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. McDougall,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We move on now to item 5B. This is open for public comment. Access fiber, Anacortes fiber internet update. Ms. Shu.
Evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the audience. I'm pleased to provide an update on Access Anacortes Fiber Internet tonight. Just pull up my screen. Things are moving along with Access. As you can see, our numbers continue to increase month over month in terms of the number of customers that we have in service. We have added a new column to this spreadsheet this month that is showing other revenue, and those are through either a DIA or direct circuits. This one is a direct circuit that we have with NoAnet. This has been primarily due to the infill of customers in the areas where we have the service up and running, and we'll continue to talk about the expansion as we move forward tonight. We currently have 316 customers in service at this time, and that is bringing in a monthly revenue of $21,809. I'm very pleased with our take rate. The penetration that we're getting within the areas that we have our service up and running is really exciting. We're at 42% in the commercial business district, 37.5% in Old Town, and Emmett Avenue has had a significant increase. We're up to 33.1%. So you can also see that the percentage of orders in service continues to grow as we become able to do underground installs as well as our aerial installs. I think that this is a helpful, interesting chart to look at on a monthly basis. As you look at both the residential and the business bandwidth plans and what they are choosing. When we first started hooking up customers, we were seeing a little bit closer to 50-50 between those that were choosing 100 megabits of service versus the gigabit service. And it's very even between business and residential as it has been. But we are having about 44% get the gigabit service, 43 to 44%. And 55 to 57% get the 100 megabit. So just a helpful information in terms of where people are selecting service through our plans. Wanted to provide an update on our 2020 construction. These are the the 6 aerial sections that are in blue. The pole attachment make-ready work will be finalized at the end of this week. They will be coming in and doing aerial section 1 on September 25th. And last week, we were able to complete 2, 3, 4, and 6. Those are with the outside company coming in to do the make-ready work. RBC has been here working on underground in the aerial section 5. They actually will be leaving and will be coming back on the 8th of October to continue with the underground boring, but the aerial crew will be arriving next Monday. So we're excited to see that work be up and coming so that we can then immediately follow behind and get those installations in place. And this will be passing 1,296 premises. And we're shooting for 450 customers. That would help us with the 35% penetration rate. Currently, we have 205 orders in those areas. which is about 15.8%. But we've been very pleased that's been growing week by week, the number of pre-orders that we have for service in that area.
Mayor Gare.
Mr. McDougall.
Yeah. Ms. Hsu, do you have an estimate on when RBC would be complete with the backbone build out for areas 1 through 6? Just ballpark?
We don't have an exact date yet because some of that is there is some more underground work that needs to be done. They have encountered a little bit rockier area than they had expected. So we are working primarily, the first area that we'll be providing service to is that section 1 and 5, right here. And falling behind. But the crew is very proficient. And when they were here this spring, they were working 6 days a week, very long days, kind of dusk to dawn. So we expect to be falling right behind them as soon as that splicing is done afterwards.
All right, good stuff. Thank you.
And I brought this up last month, but I do want to just again reiterate how important this countywide fiber interconnectivity that we have complete that's done. So the city of Anacortes now has redundant loops. We have connectivity through Mount Vernon. We have connectivity through La Conner. And this allows us the ability to ensure that we have really secure, stable internet services. But it also allows us to be able to respond to requests for proposals for Ethernet circuits or dark fiber arrangements. And it just will really be a benefit to the community and the whole county as we continue to work through the communication needs in this day and age. So very pleased to actually have that up and running. To give you an update on some special projects that are going on, we've been working with the Samish Indian Nation to be able to do installations with some grants that they received to be able to provide service to them. So the Summit Park Road site is actually in service. Tomorrow the work will begin, excuse me, for the outside plant construction at the cannery building. And the design is complete in both the longhouse and the administration building, and that will be occurring when RBC is in both of those areas as part of our 2020 expansion. At Island Hospital, the outside plant construction for the hospital to the teen clinic, the sleep center, and Mount Vernon will begin next Monday on the 28th. Now I'm confused. I think Monday's the 28th. Yes, it is. And then we still have negotiations underway with the additional site that was talked about in the paper last week, that Napa site. But we do have the NOAANET K20 contract up and running. That's a 2 gigabit point-to-point Ethernet circuit, and that's a 3-year contract that is in place and bringing in revenue now. And the Samish have signed up for business class internet, and that is up and running at Summit Park Road. I wanted to take this opportunity to put the message out to any businesses that are needing service maybe faster than what our traditional schedule will be for expansion, that we're very open to conversations for sharing some costs and moving that priority to get you installed sooner. So just want to let people know that that is an option that we are entertaining. We are busy working to prepare for 2021. We have been forecasting both the revenue and what our projected construction costs are. We are actively pursuing a contract grant, not a contract, we're actively pursuing a grant to help offset those costs, and then keeping in the back of our mind that there may be a need for some type of line of credit or bonding to help cover some of those costs. As we look at 2021, the expansion areas are these lettered areas on the map. And basically, it's following A Avenue eastward to backfill in the rest of the city out through the city limits. So this will, by the end of 2021, we will have passed 4,088 premises, and next year we expect to pass the 1,815 parcels in that brown area on the map. Last month, we talked about the underground installation tool that was on order. I wanted to just report back that the Toro Dingo is in service, and it is working really, really well. Our installation technicians have become very proficient with it already. They're able to bore under sidewalks, they're able to bore under driveways. We found these to be, even though they're like pretty small pieces, that they're very, very sturdy. That this ability to use this chain really makes for nice, clean cuts for us to be able to do installations. And that we expect that we'll be able to do about 3 installations a day using this underground tool, because the underground installations take a little bit longer than the aerial. So we're already seeing that we're thinking that we can do 3 underground installs a day. So we're pleased with that, and know that we'll continue to just get more and more proficient with time with it. I'm hoping that you have seen our latest advertisement on Facebook. That's been a really nice, steady way for us to continue to see new orders coming in. So some of the things that we're doing to make sure that people understand that the city is offering a fiber internet service is the utility bill envelopes we put out for 2 months. The sanitation vehicle billboards continue to be on each of our sanitation trucks. We're utilizing Facebook. We have door hangers, and then really word of mouth is really a great way for us to be able to backfill neighborhoods. So that's been a real positive thing. So sometimes when we end up on one street, we end up on that street for a couple days as people are just talking amongst themselves about, I'm really happy with the service that we have. So the coming activity I just wanted you to be aware of. We are continuing to talk about a dark fiber lease policy. We had some discussion about it in the last fiber committee. We are in the need to purchase another block 22 of IPv4 addresses. These are really the unique identifiers for each network connection. And we have one that's required per customer. So we have quickly utilized the first block that of 22. And we're at a point that we want to make sure that we have that whole system in place, that have the IPv4s purchased through the auction system before we get to too low of a number. So that is something that is coming forward. And we will also be bringing forth a discussion about what is a reasonable fee for service calls. And this is when we're going in to assist customers in configuring their equipment, not equipment that is something that they're utilizing through the city. So if they're managing their own Wi-Fi and they're not using the city's managed Wi-Fi, or if we're repairing damage to the city's fiber that was customer caused. So we're looking to try and be very fair about coming up with a proposal here, but that also knowing that this has potential to take a significant amount of time from our technicians, and that is something that other people would also be charging for similar services. So we'll continue to have some discussions about that, but I wanted to let you know it's something that's on the radar for us to work through. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor Gear?
Yeah.
Ms. Shu, would you just, I know you've briefed us on this many times before, but just for the benefit of the listening audience, when you were mentioning that you were passing by homes, meaning that is the opportunity of people to join our service, would you elaborate just a little bit on that and what that means?
Certainly. As we are designing our network, we are setting it up so that every street that we pass, there's potential and the infrastructure is set up so that we could serve every customer that we pass. So we look at, let's say there's 10 houses on a street, that those are 10 potential customers, and we would love to have all 10 with our internet service. As we did business planning, our business model was based on a 35% penetration in market. So we would like to have a minimum of 3.5 of those 10 houses sign up for our service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Mayor Gare.
Yes, Mr. McDougall.
I wanted to thank you and the fiber team for this work, this tremendous progress over this year. I know that, we would like to have a larger number of customers at this point in time. However, the fact that we have 316 customers on this network, a really good mix of residential and business customers, and a really good track record of service uptime and also customer satisfaction. I want to thank you and congratulate you guys on, we are running a real fiber optic network and a real internet service provider, which is fantastic. It's an enormous strategic move that we've made to take this chance on this and to really take our digital future into our own hands and have full control of our digital future as a community. So as we go forward, this service, like later tonight, we're going to be talking about a reduced fee for low-income subscribers and things like that. This really becomes a service for the entire community. And so I just want to reiterate, how proud I am of this, and I hope our community is also very proud of this effort. That we have a community-owned fiber optic network and internet service that we all own. And so, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will pass that on to the team. The team is so excited about the service that we're providing and just learning and just, knocking the socks off our customers' expectations to continue to bring the next customer into service. So I think that we have the right people in the right place and that we're going to just continue to get more and more efficient so that we can continue to increase the number of installs we have in place. So thanks for your support.
Well said, Mr. McDougall. Any other comments?
Mayor Gear.
Welcome.
I want to second Mr. McDougall's comments. We are picking up speed. We are making good progress. I am also very proud of where we are today with the utility. I do think that in the final analysis, though, we are going to have to ensure that the utility, or the service rather, is paying for itself, because that was our initial promise to the customers. Unlike a strip of road where we don't charge a fee to use it, Public Works can spend $300,000 paving that strip of road, and we don't really know if they're doing it at a good price or not. But here, because our overall goal is for the service to pay for itself, that is the metric that we need to achieve ultimately. So we'll be, I think, looking for that over the next year or so. And also, I do wish, as I've expressed previously, that the City of Anacortes logo appeared anywhere that we have this new Access Fiber logo, just to make it very clear to our residents that this is your city-owned utility. And I recognize and appreciate the efforts that we've made around some of that language and in the slogans and such. But I think the logo would also help, because people definitely do recognize that it's been the same for decades. So I think that would help, especially as other entrants into the market begin competing with this service.
Mr. Walters, Ms. Hsu and I have discussed that recently, and they're looking at how to do that.
The slide that's up is actually something that we've been utilizing for quite some time, but we really have been working to make sure that we are showing both the City of Anacortes and Anacortes Fiber Internet together. So yes, and we're really trying to make it that it's yours. It's something that is something that every community member has a piece of.
And my thought was perhaps the logo has a larger presence and Access is maybe smaller. It can be there, but let them see City of Anacortes and high-speed fiber, because we do have other providers in the community, and there is some confusion on what's owned by the city and what isn't. So well said, Mr. Walters. We have one member of the audience attending. Does that person want to comment on this? Okay, no hand. All right. Any other comments or discussion for Ms. Chu tonight? Thank you very much, Emily. Well done. Okay. I am proud. I'm really proud too. It's so exciting. I feel like we've turned the corner. All right, so we're going to move on now to item 5C. This is open for public comment. This is ordinance 3077, updating the Anacortes Municipal Code 1344.020 for Anacortes Fiber Internet reduced fee schedule for low-income residents. This is a discussion item tonight. Ms. Shu.
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Swetnam.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, members of council, and thank you to the fiber team and the fiber committee for the collaboration on this ordinance that's before council. And I apologize, I'm having trouble sharing my screen to show you the text of the ordinance. So forgive my, need some more IT help on that one, I guess. But so essentially what this ordinance does is it adds some language to the existing section in Chapter 1344 of the Municipal Code that provides for a reduction in monthly charges for low-income and indigent residents. The ordinance as written identifies that the reduction is currently available for water, sewer, storm sewer, and sanitation services. So what we've done in this first read of this ordinance is add in language that also includes residential internet services. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things here. First of all, the language that we chose in calling it residential internet services comes from other chapters of the code that talk about the fiber services. And second of all, you'll notice there in Section 1, Subsection A, Subsection 1, that there's some language that we added that says, the way the code's written right now, it allows for a 20% reduction in the minimum charges for water, sewer, storm sewer, and sanitation. And we've added some language to say that the 20% reduction for residential internet services applies to whatever level of internet service the customer has selected. So rather than saying that the 20% only applies to 100 megabit service, if that resident has the gigabit service, they would get a 20% reduction of that service that they actually have. So that, I think the code change, there will be some language that will need to be changed on the city website to include this. But it's a fairly simple change mechanically to get the code updated to allow for that. So I know that Ms. Shu and I are both happy to answer questions. And again, it's the first read, so I welcome any feedback or updates that council would like to see, and we can bring it back at a future meeting.
Mayor Gear?
Would you like me to bring the screen up? Like you'll see the ordinance?
Sure. Yeah, why not? I was just going to say that I appreciate the quick work on this. I'm a proponent of offering this low-income discount to fiber customers as well, especially because, you know, our message with this entire fiber service is that it is an essential service for residents, almost as much as garbage and sewer service is now. And especially during this corona pandemic, people need good, reliable fiber service so that each of their 4 children can be on Zoom calls all at the same time. There aren't actually very many people who take advantage of this discount in the city, and it may be that they don't qualify, it may be that they're not aware of it. But in any event, it's not going to affect our revenues in any substantial way. but it is also just the right thing to do. So I suggest that we pass this as quickly as people feel comfortable doing so, and then make sure that we communicate to people that this option exists.
Mayor Gear?
Ms. Moulton?
Thanks. I concur with Mr. Walters, and I would also like to see, I'm not sure where people do find out about these discounts if they're low income, so I would just like to second his comments.
Thank you. And I'll ask Alexander if we could do something on our website to help folks with that. That would be great. So, Ms. Swetnam, we have this listed for discussion only tonight, but do we need to do a second read on it if everyone is willing to entertain a vote?
If council is comfortable with moving forward with the ordinance, you can go ahead and take action tonight. The alternative is we can put it on the consent agenda for next week if that's preferable. But certainly, if council doesn't feel like you all need a second read on it, you could opt to take action tonight.
Mayor Kerr.
Mr. McDougall.
Would like to reiterate, support from Mr. Walters' comments. I thought he said it very well. The access to high-speed and reliable internet service is an essential utility in the same way that electricity and water and roads are today to be able to function, especially in times of COVID. So this is absolutely the right thing to do to be able to expand and extend that access to as many residents as possible. So I'm ready to go tonight if we want to go tonight.
Gear?
Mayor.
And then Mr. Miller.
I am echoing the same sentiment. I'm ready to go. I think that we've worked on this long and hard. I think that the efforts to make sure that we're reaching the very people that really need it, from the standpoint of discount, I think that the school system may be one of those places we could further ascertain some of the families that may need it. That may be a tool, but I'm ready to move forward as well. So,
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like the council to know one of the discussions we had at a fiber committee meeting, I expressed concerns about basically offering a discount when your own project can't stand on its own legs. And we haven't, I'm very confident we're going to get there. But the reality is this particular city service doesn't currently pay for itself. Again, I realize it's community owned, so that's a concern I have expressed. However, this is a city utility, and we do have in order to be consistent with our other utilities, I do support this resolution, this ordinance, and move to approve ordinance 3077.
Second.
Here. All right. We have a motion and a second, and Ms. Cleland, yes?
Yeah, I just would like to say that I appreciate what everyone has said, and I do think it might be a good location to reach out to those that receive the Senior Center newsletter, because that's a group that I know comes in to use the facility quite often and use the internet as a resource. So if there's anyone out there that might benefit from it, I think that would be a good place to share this information with.
And I think at the school district also with families, if they can get the word out, that would be really great. So we have a motion by Mr. Miller, a second by Mr. Walters. Is there any additional comments?
Mayor Gear?
Yes, Ms. Moulton.
I would just like to remind that council not very long ago also passed a reduction in charges for people that don't live in their homes all year round. So I think that this is another good way to be cognizant and responsive to the needs of our constituents, and I fully support this. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance number 3077. Ms. Hunt, can you take the vote?
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on now to item 5D, Resolution 3001, updating the unified fee schedule for access Anacortes fiber, internet reduced fee schedule for low-income residents. Mr. Hoagland.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and the audience. This is really just housekeeping related to the item you have just been talking about. So the unified fee schedule with this resolution would incorporate that language referencing the section of city code authorizing the reduction in rates. I would be happy to answer any questions or entertain a motion.
Mayor Gear,
Mr. Walters.
we have a typo in available, and low income should be hyphenated, but otherwise I would move approval with those corrections.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Appreciate that. I would point out that we do have this information on the city utility billing website. The application, or a link to the application, is there as well. And if a household is within 150% of the IRS poverty guidelines, they would qualify for this reduction.
With that, a second, Mr. Walters, a motion.
Okay, did you move, Mr. Walters? Did I miss that?
I did.
Okay. So the motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Young, to approve Resolution 3001. Is there any additional comments or discussion? Ms. Hunt, would you call for the vote?
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on now to item 5E, also open for public comment. Agreement for installation of a conduit and fiber with the city of Oak Harbor. This is an action item, and Mr. Buckemeyer, are you leading this conversation, or is Ms. Swetnam?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to introduce it, and then maybe Mr. Buckemeyer can fill in with some of the public works details. So, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This agreement is an agreement between the city and the city of Oak Harbor to allow Anacortes to install conduit and fiber in the city of Oak Harbor's water line between Sharps Corner and the Deception Pass Bridge. So it is an interesting arrangement that the staff and city leadership from both cities have worked together pretty extensively to get to the point that we're at. And the consideration for the agreement is that Anacortes will provide the city of Oak Harbor the exclusive use of 24 strands in the conduit once it's placed within Oak Harbor's water line. Once the conduit and fiber strands are south of Pass Lake, the Deception Pass Bridge, then all of everything that's beyond that point is the domain of the city of Oak Harbor, and Anacortes will not be responsible for maintaining or taking care of any of that. Some of the things that staff were concerned about as we were working through this agreement were to make sure that Anacortes maintained ownership of the strands that were between Sharps Corner and Pass Lake to ensure that there was consistency in accessing those strands and to make sure that there was, that those were being properly maintained. I think those are the highlights of the agreement. Mr. Buckemeyer, I don't know if I'm leaving anything out, but staff is recommending approval. I believe the city of Oak Harbor is looking to move this agreement forward to their council in one of their upcoming agendas as well. And so with that, I think we're happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Gear.
Mr. McDougall.
Mr. Buckenmeyer, is the city of Oak Harbor, are they actively building a fiber, I guess, a fiber link through their water pipe that they own through kind of the North Whidbey as well? Or is this a kind of a pending, like, we'll get it to Pass Lake and then they will at some point build their own fiber out to meet that eventually?
That's correct, yeah. We're gonna get it to the south side of Deception Pass Bridge, and then it would be their responsibility. They've talked to us about, hiring us to build that for them because, we got the expertise to do that.
We've got the in-house, yeah. Okay, great, good deal. And then the total number of fibers in the line that's being put in through South Hidalgo, 24 strands go, for City of Oak Harbor use. Is this 144 strand line?
Correct, 144.
Okay. So net 120 fibers for exclusive City of Anacortes.
Correct, yeah. And we've coordinated with our internal fiber folks, and every indication is that 120 strands is going to be more than sufficient for what we'll need for a while.
Yep, agreed. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Gear.
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I read through the agreement a few times and counting the fiber strands, and it seems like the staff worked pretty hard to figure that out and think about the future. Because I worry about 10 years from now somebody's going to dust off the agreement and figure out who owns what pieces of fiber and who's renting strands through who. But I guess that's why we put everything electronic now. So that's a good thing. But I think it's a solid agreement from my read of it.
Any questions, discussion?
Mayor Gear.
Walters.
I move approval as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Miller to approve the agreement for the installation of conduit and fiber with the City of Oak Harbor. Ms. Hunt, would you take the vote?
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Is there anything else this evening for the good of the order? Okay, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting. I'll see you all sometime this week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.